Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive! This week I conclude my overview series on Scion 2nd Edition with a look at the rule system of it. The Storypath System, while it is similar to the Storyteller and storytelling systems used by White Wolf, has some noticeable tweaks and adjustments that change how things play out on many levels. I look forward to this discussion, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Before we begin, let me just say, if you like this video, please click like and subscribe down below. Leave me comments, tell me what you like, what you didn't like, what you'd like to hear me talk about more of in the future. Always looking for ways to improve the channel. With that said, let's just get right on into this, shall we? So the 2nd edition Scion system is very clearly drawn from the classic White Wolf systems over the years. It is a D10 based system where you roll a bunch of D10s determined by the skill plus the appropriate attribute. Now, unlike previous editions, very few things have a set use this attribute. So, first you would pick the skill, then you would pick whether the test you're engaged in is physical, mental, or social, and then you would pick the approach. The three approaches are power, where you direct application of force or charm or whatever, what have you. Finesse, subtlety and precision. Resilience, outlasting. Once you pick that, then you've got your dice pool. Because there's a power, a finesse, and resilience attribute for all three areas of endeavor. To look at this, let's look at a classic sword strike. Okay. The most common sword strike, and the one most people think of, would be, I am slipping in under my opponent's guard. That would be finesse and dexterity. You could also go with, I'm going to weather my opponent's attacks and then immediately after one, do a follow-up. That would be resilience. Or, I'm going to batter through my opponent's guard, smashing my sword into him regardless of what he puts up to stop. That would be power and strength. Now, unlike previous editions, there is no set damage value for things. In fact, there is no soak roll. How you determine damage is stunts. And there are two stunts that inflict damage. The first stunt is the Inflict damage stunt, which requires 0 net successes plus your target's armor in successes. Following that is the critical stunt, which adds an additional damage condition, which is one of the other subtle things with this system. Damage is done as conditions. You have 2 bruised conditions, an injured condition, a maimed condition, and taken out. Now, things that do lethal damage skip the bruised conditions. So, weapons with the lethal quality to them skip straight to injured. Now, let's say in our example, Sword Strike, a sword is a lethal weapon, so it has the lethal quality. You hit an opponent with no armor for 8 successes. Alright, so inflict damage is 0. So you do the inflict damage, and then you do the critical strike. So you've at that point done 2 damage from stunts. You can't do the same stunt more than once, so you can't outright take your opponent down, but you have inflicted the maimed and injured conditions because you did 2 damage to him. Any other damage inflicted to the opponent that is lethal will take him out. And that's the thing. It's actually a lot more brutal of a system just because of that factor. Now then, with die rolls, you have to deal with the fact that things have changed up a little bit. First off, a number of things will now affect your die rolls. First off, you have enhancements. What an enhancement does is if you get even 1 success on your die roll, an enhancement adds its rating in extra successes. So if you had something that gave you a 2 enhancement and you rolled 1 success, you got 3 successes. There is a soft cap of 3 to enhancements. You can exceed that, but it requires a lot of consideration by the storyteller on if that will be allowed. Now, from there, you have the opposite of enhancements, complications. Complications are things that go wrong while you still succeed. For example, let's say you are researching something about a foe. The complication is the foe or an agent of the foe finds out you're researching it. And then you can choose to spend successes to ignore the complication, to not have that complication trigger. Or you can spend those successes on getting better information. It's a yes but to the situation. The third thing that comes out of all of this is something called momentum. Momentum is what happens when you fail. It is a constellation, and as everything is going on, momentum is representing the weight of destiny, the force of everything pushing against the characters, pushing towards an outcome. But mechanically, momentum is what you get when you fail. A regular failure is 1 momentum. A failure in your specialty is 2 momentum. A botch, where you get 0 successes and at least one of your dice shows up as a 1, is 3 momentum. A botch in a specialty is 4 momentum. And yeah, that's fun. Because, oh yes, the GM can, if you fail, can offer 2 momentum if you let that failure turn into a botch. Now, what does momentum do? Why would you want to take that botch over just 1 point of momentum? Well, that's because momentum can do a number of things. First off, momentum goes into a pool. And that pool has a maximum of twice the number of players. But if you spend a point of momentum, you can add a die to a die roll. This is one of the few ways you can actually add a dice to a die roll. Of course, you need the permission of the other players because you're affecting their resources, their momentum, doing that. If you're doing a complex action, a action that has multiple intervals, multiple rolls to accomplish, you can add another interval to that, giving you another chance at success on it for 3 momentum. And you still need the permission of the rest of the players for that. Finally, some of the knacks, some of the special things that you can do require you to expend momentum. Those you can always do, and you don't need anyone else's permission. You just have to have the momentum to do it. And that's the main gist of how the system works. Some subtle differences, and of course the other difference is the difficulty. The number you need to roll on the dice has changed. If you are at the heroic and mortal tier, or the origins tier, you need 8s. Demigod and God, which are not out yet, but at those tiers, you will need 7s. Of course, determining success on any roll is based on getting a certain number of successes on that D10 pool. And that's pretty much the overview of the mechanics. Simple, straightforward, familiar for anyone who's played White Wolf games before, but with just enough little tweaks that you need to remember them. So, with all that said, next week I will be doing my one-shot overview of the old strategy game Leviathans, Monsters in the Sky, that was put out by Catalyst Game Labs. Until then, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.